I actually had a particular advantage when I was preparing for SAT math, right? And my advantage was the fact that I actually learned everything that I needed to know for the SAT in school, right? Every single one of the concepts that I had learned, I'd pretty much finished during my sophomore year, and I didn't have to learn anything new for the exam. But even though I had this advantage, I was not getting into that high 700 range like I wanted to. I wanted that perfect score, but I wasn't scoring there. I was scoring about high 600s at the time when I took my first SAT. So I'm going to explain one, how I perfected SAT math topics, but also how to learn those topics initially. And stay to the end where I'm going to talk about the SAT scholarships that I'm giving out. So hi, I'm Karthik. This is how I scored an 800 in SAT math, right? So one, I learned all the topics in school, right? But how can you substitute that if you haven't? That's like the baseline for everything. And even if you have, how do you make sure that they aren't tripping you up and the reason why you're getting some of them wrong? Because you might have fully understood a concept when you were learning in school, but you might not have outside of school. And that might be the issue that's holding you back, right? So if you haven't learned certain concepts in math that are going to be tested in the SAT, what are you essentially waiting for to do? That should be your number one priority, because that's going to give you the biggest initial boost if it's a problem for you, right? So how do we know initially, right? Go to College Board, right? Or, honestly, I prefer Khan Academy. The College Board website where they display all the skills that are being tested, it's so poor in its wording and its phrasing that it actually takes deciphering to figure out what skills they test, right? But Khan Academy literally goes like quadratic word problems, this kind of word problems, these triangle problems, the congruence, similarity. Like it lists out the topic and the specific thing that it's testing and all of those specific things, right? It doesn't leave anything that's not tested, right? Or anything that is tested. It's all in there. That's why I really like Khan Academy. It breaks it down so easy. So read those skills, right? Just read the skills, and you need to be able to do two things just by reading it, right? See if you fully understand the concept. Like if it just says quadratics, right? Do you know quadratics? Do you know like the quadratic formula? Do you know the formula for the standard quadratic form, the vertex quadratic form? What are every single thing that you know? Like, what are all those things that you know about quadratics? See if you can list them out, on a piece of paper, on your head. Doesn't matter. Just see if you can list them out. But the most important part is, can you come up with a question from that topic and answer it in your head? Are you able to do that? Are you able to do that relatively quickly? If you can't come up with a topic and an answer in your head for that kind of question, I don't think you have a full mastery of that, and you need to learn it and you need to watch the video. That's the level of mastery you need to have for that kind of concept, right? And for seeing how well you know the concept, I wouldn't rely on that as an indicator, because like I said previously, what if you didn't know that vertex form was even a thing, and you just know standard form and the how a quadratic works and what roots are, etc. Like if you didn't know that existed, how could you know that you don't know it, right? It's an unknown thing, right? So make sure that that's not what you're fully relying on, but you're relying on the question answer, and see if the complexity of it is high, right? Even that, I still recommend like roughly going over the video just to see if you fully understand the concept, right? You need to refresh your idea of those concepts that you don't fully understand. And the way you do it is by referencing outside resources. So let's get right into that. How exactly do you learn? You have to reference outside resources, right? And the issue is you can't just come up with a method in your head. You can't just come up with a brand new idea on how to solve something, right? You need to actually learn it. So use Khan Academy's videos, right? They have easy and difficult videos. What I want you to do is go to the easy videos and generally go over it, right? Just figure out the method, figure out what they're generally talking about, and then go to the hard video, right? And then reference it to that, right? Reference the hard video, try to figure out what the concepts are in the hard video, and then think about how they relate to the easy videos concept. So what are the similarities? What did they do the same? What did they have to decipher / do differently, right? Create those differences. And also take notes on this concept, but take notes specifically on the method. I don't want you to take notes on how exactly they applied it and the specific problem. If you can break down the method, right, something that you could apply to any problem, if you switched around the numbers and gave it to you in a different format, can you understand how or why it works, right? If you can understand that concept, right, what the method is and how to apply it to other questions, but also how exactly does it work? Why does it work? Then you're set. you're set from that point if you're able to do that, right? Because you're going to have a full understanding of the entire concept. You don't have to worry about anything if you understand why it works, because why it works is the most essential portion, right? The reason why that is because we're not focusing on the method specifically, or we're not specifically focusing on memory. We are focusing on the methods, but why the method works. If I had to, it's very hard to explain that concept, especially because you're probably not in the phase where you've done this yet. But the idea is if I memorize how something is done, right? I watch someone do a problem and I memorize, okay, if I encounter this problem, this is how I'm going to do it. By referencing the exact steps that they have done, that's not going to help you, because the question isn't going to come in the same format as the video that they give you on Khan Academy. It's going to be in a different format, in a different scenario. But if I know how to apply the problem, right, apply the method to solve the problem like I did in the previous video, I'll understand it. So from the videos, extract the method and why it works. Okay, for the differences between the sections, knowing the exact differences is pretty much useless, right? The same preparation is pretty much involved in both, right? If I were to prepare for each one of the sections, it would be exactly the same. I wouldn't recommend anything different. And the timing differences per problem, right, in each of those sections are also irrelevant because it's adjusted to the problem, right? The problems are varying levels of time involved with like how much they take to solve, right? It just depends on the problem. So I wouldn't worry about the timing differences. It's not really relevant. Nothing is really that different between the sections except you have a calculator in one and a calculator in another. Now, how do you use that calculator in the calculator section? That's the only important thing that I want to reference here is you have to use computational math, right? So if I give you like math problem like 99 times 81, right? It's not a good idea to solve that by hand, even though you might be able to do it on the calculator so you can just do it faster. That's the purpose of the calculator, to take complex problems and be able to solve the computational portions faster, right? Plugging in the concepts, right? Like plugging in the graph and trying to find the root on the graph portion of the TI-84 calculator. That's a pain. It's a huge pain to try and do that. So I highly don't recommend to do that. Don't do anything conceptual with the calculator. Do computational things with the calculator. Do like when you're trying to multiply by the square root of 3 and then, for your 30, 60, 90 triangle and then trying to figure out what the hypotenuse is equal to, that's when you use computational math. You know the concept, you just solve the physical numbers with the calculator, right? Actually, before I get into this idea of why people don't get their goal score, let me just talk about perfection really quickly, right? The idea of how you get perfection is based off of the idea of how much practice you're doing, right? So you level up the level of problems that you're doing, right? So you practice the problems that you do and you slowly increase the difficulty of that problem, right? So like Khan Academy makes that easy where you just do the problem, right? And then you get the level 1 out of 4 portion, and then you do it again. The problems get harder, right? Having mastery or perfection, right? Getting that 800 score is a matter of just being able to do that for such like a high amount to where you're on like the 5 out of 4, right? You've done 4 out of 4, and it gives you another series of problems that are more difficult than the ones that are probably going to show up on the SAT, and you're able to just crush those, right? That's the level of mastery you want, right? Progressively overload the questions that you're getting. That's how you improve over a long period of time. That's how you get to the perfect score, is if you progressively overload your problem, right? And people don't get their goal score because they go onto Khan Academy, right? They commit to doing this. They say they're going to do this for like as long as it takes to get their score, but they only do it for a couple of days and then they never do it again. They quit, right? And to be honest, like 15% of people are even able to make it to the end of this video. That's what like YouTube tells me in terms of retention, right? And I purposely don't have edits because I think that just takes away from your attention. If you can't focus on a piece of content without edits, then your attention span is just so messed up to where how are you going to improve on the SAT if you can't make it through like a 10-minute video, right? Commit to doing this method until your last exam, or until you get a perfect score, and then you can just super score and not even worry about math. use daily habits. That's going to be the fundamental thing of this entire video, is the idea that a daily habit over a long period of time is going to get you what you want. It's doing it every single day, even when you don't feel like it, for at least a little bit, if not as much as you can possibly do. That's going to be more effective than any other study method that you have. Okay, let's talk about the SAT community scholarship. So I only have 5 days left where I'm accepting applications into my community. And basically what it is an opportunity to work with me one-on-one for your SAT, right? I have live lectures, live Q&A sessions with a bunch of other students that have the same goal as you. So they'll be able to motivate you. They'll be able to like bring up certain ideas that you might not have thought of. And honestly, the idea that you're the sum of the 5 people that you're close to / meet is so true, because if you like immerse yourself in this community with other people that are like-minded, it's going to be more likely that you're going to do well, just because of like, like social pressure. That's just kind of how it works, right? So all of that combined with the 30 QASs that I have in here. So official exams that you can practice and you can take anytime you want, that I reference to with my live lectures and live SAT prep, where essentially you can ask me any question you want and I'll answer it. And a bunch of other people can ask their questions. You can figure out generally what is being asked, and you can learn from even other people's questions, right? I think this is the most effective thing, because essentially what you're doing is you're able to practice on your own, but get help when you specifically need it. And there's like community calls at almost any time, so you can get on a call and be able to talk with me, right? The link is in the description to apply, and I'm only giving out 10 spots, and it's getting more and more competitive. But if you make an application that really stands out, that has a good explanation, good detail, and good personal connection, right? I can understand who you are from what you've written. That's the type of person that I'm looking to accept. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you learned something today.